sector is a very, very important sector, not just in Nigeria, but all over the world. And there are different aspects of it that affect our daily lives, hopefully in the positives, like the compressed natural gas. Well, to start us off, we're going to have a feature which is going to explain to us what CNG actually entails. Nigeria, a nation blessed with wealth, vast proven reserves of natural gas, the largest on the continent, the 8th largest in the world. For decades, this natural bounty was a paradox, a resource largely unseen by its own people and almost a missed potential. The first seeds of change were sown not in a grand policy speech, but in a visionary project in 2003. Professor Mohammed Mustafa Ibrahim, alongside key stakeholders, conceived the idea. The practical launch followed in 2010 in Benin City, Edo State. They commissioned Nigeria's first pilot CNG stations. It was a modest start, a quiet experiment to prove a concept that compressed natural gas could be a viable, cleaner and cheaper fuel for the Nigerian vehicle. But a lack of government policy and an entrenched dependence on imported petrol kept the project on the periphery. For years, the infrastructure languished. The high cost of conversion, coupled with the scarcity of refueling stations, created a dilemma. Then in 2023 came the shift. The removal of fuel subsidies sent petrol prices soaring overnight. For millions of Nigerians, transportation costs became an existential burden. This crisis, however, became the ultimate catalyst. In response, the federal government relaunched its commitment with a new mandate, the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, PICNG. It was a national mission to reduce transport inflation, utilize Nigeria's domestic gas resources, and provide immediate economic relief. The promise was clear: to make the vast gas beneath the soil the fuel in the tank. Today, the momentum is undeniable. What began with less than 10 conversion centers in 2023 has exploded into a nationwide push. Private investors, bolstered by government incentives, have poured over $500 million into the sector. The infrastructure is scaling at an unprecedented rate. Refueling stations are popping up in major cities and along key interstate routes. The government has also initiated a free and subsidized conversion program prioritizing commercial vehicles, the engines of the nation's economy. Over 170 conversion centers are now operational, a testament to the synergy between policy and the private sector. The targets are ambitious: 1 million converted vehicles by 2027, and the deployment of hundreds of CNG-powered mass transit buses across state capitals. For the average Nigerian, the shift offers an essential economic lifeline: savings of 50 to 70% compared to the crippling cost of petrol. It's a cleaner alternative, a strategic move towards energy security, and a direct answer to the daily struggles of a nation on the move, finally turning its buried treasure into fuel for its future. The road ahead still presents challenges: safety concerns, conversion costs for private owners, and the sheer scale of the infrastructure required. But for the first time, Nigeria's gas revolution is not a plan, it is a reality. The PICNG was set up by the federal government in 2023 to make sure that CNG is successful in Nigeria for the long term. What is the vision in this long term, you ask? Well, we're going to be speaking with Barrister Ismail, who is going to tell us all about what the vision is.
Well, I think energy is energy. It's probably the most important sector, because it affects almost every part of the economy. It is power, it is transportation, it is it is almost everything. There's an energy mix into it. So I think it just depends on what part of the energy you want to discuss or you are interested in.
Okay.
But the energy mix is probably the most important part of any economy. Well, I think when the president came in, and then after the removal of the fuel subsidy, the president immediately understood that there has to be some sort of a replacement, and he is well aware that Nigeria is more of a gas country than it is an oil country, because we have a proven record of about 200 trillion cubic feet of gas, and so the president wanted to make sure that there is an alternative to fossil fuels and dirty fuels, be it in the green economy that we're moving, the green energy that we want to move on to. But he knows that there has to be a transition to that, and that transition energy would be gas. So we are looking for an opportunity to focus our gas and be able to sell it. So the president immediately created this initiative on compressed natural gas, which is cheaper, which is safer, and which is cleaner, to be able to power the country. And other countries have done it before. We've taken examples from China and India, from Brazil and Iran, and so many places that have looked inward, looked at their gas infrastructure and gas reserves, and be able to power their transportation sector and their energy mix with compressed natural gas or liquefied natural gas. And that's what the president thought about, and he created this initiative. In the last 2 years, this initiative has done a lot of things in terms of moving and getting people to adopt CNG as a last mile option, as an alternative to fossil fuels and dirty fuels. I think we have moved from about 7 cars that were using CNG to now, close to about, we're getting about 200,000 cars that have been converted in the last 2 years. We have moved from a couple of few CNG filling stations to now we're talking about, about 27 to 28 people who have opened up their, filling stations across the country. We have moved to maybe a state that was using CNG to now in about 13 to 14 states, and we're increasing the map. By the end of this year, we'll go to other places and have our footprints there. We have, investments coming in from private sector in millions of dollars, in close to about $1 billion. One company alone has invested almost $500 million into it. Dangote, as we are all aware, just bought about 4,000 CNG trucks, and he has ordered another 5,000 more. If you put the total amount of money of that alone, that's about 720 billion to about 880 billion naira. So that's a lot of confidence of investors putting a lot of money where CNG is, and then government putting a lot of resources as well. Converting cars, converting buses, converting trucks to be able to reduce the cost of transportation and cost of logistics of goods and services, so that people would be able to afford some of these things that are coming out from. So there's a lot of milestones that we have achieved, and we are proud of it. But there's a lot more that we need to do. We need to be able to saturate the market with enough CNG availability and gas availability, so that people would be able to get it when they are looking for it. Because no matter how cheap anything is, once it's not available, then it's no longer cheap, it's absolutely expensive. So the goal right now is to get the gas availability across the country. But we're also focused on electric vehicles to be able to power that. So the president understands that the mixture of these two would be able to significantly reduce the burden of the removal of fuel subsidy. Oh, absolutely, yeah. So we have a lot of partners that are coming in, a lot of investors who are coming in and interested. We've just recently signed an MOU with MCC and some other private, local players to set up an industrial park in Ajakuta. I just had a meeting this morning, coincidentally, with another serious local player who wants to set up another industrial major CNG park in Ano in Imo State. So we have a lot of investors who are interested in setting up assembly plants in Nigeria. We have IRS who is already setting up an assembly plant for electric kekes. That is Adede Sabu. We call it Adede Sabu, where I come from. And so that's the tricycles. So that is being set up in Kano. We have a lot of people who are interested in setting up different assembly plants, both for electric vehicles and for CNG. It's quite encouraging, the number of interest that we receive almost on a daily basis of people who want to come and invest in that.
Lots of sayings around we're too dependent on oil and we need to diversify into different aspects of the economy. I mean, we've been talking about agriculture. How important is the energy sector in Nigeria? And how can we look at it as a way of us to get even more for the country?
Oh, absolutely. Like I mentioned in the beginning, energy is probably the most important thing that you can find anywhere in the world, really. It is what drives an economy. It's simple as that. If you want water for dams, you need energy to be able to pull that through. If you want, fertilizer, you need energy. So even for agriculture, it's not as black and white. You need energy to be able to do. So the value chain that you create out of agricultural products, to be able to make it, have any value, the value that you can add on it is, this is purely the job of energy. So energy has a critical role to play in this, and it is important for Nigeria to focus on diversifying its energy sources, as opposed to focusing on becoming habitually dependent on a product that, yes, we may have the raw material, yes, and now we have an Abuja refinery, but we are also subjected to the global fluctuations of its prices all over the world. So any move up or down strikes the economy deeply. So we need to be able to source other sources, of energy, and gas is a primer for that. Is to create a brand new economy out of gas, out of CNG, out of EVs in transportation sector, is to make the country self-reliant and transition from dependent on fossil fuels and dirty fuels, is to be able to utilize our own product in a way that we do not need the interference or intervention of anyone else, is to be able to create an economy that people could get jobs, make money out of it, and be able to be dependent. The country needs to be able to be dependent on its own resources, which is gas.
That was quite enlightening. And now let's talk conversion. As you know, you can actually convert your regular vehicles into CNG vehicles. What is the process like? Because at the end of the day, what you aim to achieve is to spend way less on what you're spending on petrol, which could be up to 90%. Well, I'm sure you want to find out how it is done. Let's find out.
There are various things put into consideration to make choice of cylinder. The one, the body integrity of the vehicle. Secondly, the available space in the boot. All right. And thirdly, the capacity of the vehicle itself. It's enough space to accommodate such a cylinder. There are some vehicles that will have very limited boot space. All right. You may have to opt for a smaller storage cylinder. If you look at this, there's a cylinder valve on the cylinder itself, which is controlled through a knob. With here, you can either shut down the gas and open it. So once you open, the gas is transmitted to the front of the where it is being utilized, and there's a pipe that links the storage cylinder and other components of the vehicle of CNG conversion. This is the refill valve. it also have a service control knob as well to shut down the gas, all right, from here, or to let it open where it is being fed. Now once the pressure is released, all right, it is being transferred from the regulator through this rigid process to the gas injectors. This is where the injection is actually taking place. All these are the design and safety has been put into consideration. If you look at the system, the gas system has been smartly isolated in one area of the vehicle. All right, it has been done so to ensure that there is no interference between the gas system and the original petrol system. And if it's time for maintenance and diagnosis, it's easily seen and attended to. Right, all these are gas injectors. Right, if you look at this now, there are 6 injectors here, corresponding to 6 petrol injectors as well. CNG onboard cylinder in a car has the limited amount of gas it can take. All right, for example, the 65-liter water capacity cylinder can take about 15 meter cube of gas at 200 bar pressure. All right, that storage is meant to travel as long as maybe 150 kilometers. All right, and if you look at the prevailing price of CNG, which is 230 naira now, it means you'll be spending about 3,500 for every 150 kilometers you drive. Now, if you have to compare that with the price of petrol, which is about 1,000 naira, 1,100 naira in some places, even as far as 1,200 naira in some filling stations. All right. So to do that, what you'll be looking at, let's say, up to 20,000 naira more worth of fuel to travel the same distance that 3,500 naira worth of CNG will take you to. All right. Now, if you look at the difference, you will now notice that you'll be saving up to 70 to 80% cost in fueling your car.
Well, here in the FCT, in the past 2 years, there have been people who have converted their vehicles successfully, and since then they have been using CNG vehicles. And I'm sure that they would like to tell you their sides of the story. I mean, we started with just a few stations around the FCT, and now we have a lot more numbers, and people have places where they can buy CNG. But then, what are some of the experiences that they face on a daily basis? Well, we're going to take it to the streets to find out what they have to say.
To use CNG, you have more advantage compared to fuel. And then the journey, you can use a fuel of 20,000 naira. You can use a CNG of 4,000 naira or 5,000 to cover everything.
It was very, very nice, very, very good and advantageous. Yes.
It's been interesting though.
Advantage. And if you talk about the advantage of using CNG, and if you talk about the age of service and the rest, your car always don't need and everything there. Talk about the advantage about using the CNG. Advantage, you can use it if your plug and everything they're okay, and then the fuel your car will not be consuming much. And if you talk under this,
To our environment, it doesn't pollute the environment.
The challenges we are facing now is just that it's not all that available. As in, the queue is always long. It wastes a lot of time. Like since morning we have been on queue here. The gas has not come. We have been waiting for it. It has not come. This is almost 2 o'clock, and we have not gotten it. So that is just the disadvantage.
I want to strongly hammer on availability. Some of us converted this CNG with our money. A lot of us, even myself, I paid 750,000 naira to convert. Then, government now find out that thing is a bit good. Then give out free kits to a lot of drivers on the way. We don't have a problem with that. But they should make the gas available. You can see the queues on this place. I'm sure you know.
It's been such an interesting time learning all about compressed natural gas, also known as CNG, and how far we've come as a nation in making sure we include it in our daily lives. As I mentioned earlier, this is an initiative that is cheaper, cleaner for the environment, and of course a better alternative to what we use on a daily basis, which is petrol and diesel. 90% you might save on what the cost that you spend on petrol. So if you're looking into using CNG or converting your car, then make sure you go to the right place and make sure that your car is able to handle it before you do that. Let's make sure that we are always careful in our choices. With that, we've come to the end of today's